r/Nosleep. Posted by u/Stuart Wilkerson 87. The Boarding School Chronicles, The Devil's Second Cousin Got a Job at My School. Part 2. Hi, I'm back. Sorry for leaving you all on a cliffhanger. It was a really jerk thing to do, but the feds had to speak to me about my role in the mob incident. I'll talk about that after this story. Anyways, by the time my interview, which lasted 14 hours, was over, I was too tired to keep writing, so I just posted what I had. I don't remember much from our walk with Jeff, but I do remember that there were a lot of questions. Jeff didn't answer many of them. All he said was stuff like it doesn't work that way, or he just flat out ignored them. I don't remember how long it took, but eventually we reached a cave. "Where are we?" said Wolfgang, when we reached the cave. "We are at the gates to hell," he said, then looked at Asher, waved his hand, and Asher said, "Fuck you. Do you want to lose your tongue again?" Jeff said, which prompted Asher to shut up. Jeff then pointed to the cave and said, "After you," pointing to the entrance. I don't know what prompted me to do it, maybe the combination of fear and boredom, but I asked Jeff, "So, are you from hell?" "I'm from the underworld, not hell," he said as he made an apple appear from nowhere and took a bite. "Aren't they the same thing?" I asked. No, 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 the man retorted in an annoyed tone. "Hell is just one kingdom in the infinitude of the underworld, one that I particularly am banned from. I live in a cabin, a few hundred miles east of hell." I then decided that my questions were bringing about more questions than answers and shut up. When we had been going down the cave for a while, Jeff yelled, "Stop, what the hell are you doing?" We all suddenly jolted to a stop and Lena said, "What the hell, man? You told us to go." Jeff then responded with, "Go if you want, but if you go down any further you will be in hell, and hell is a one-way trip for mortals." After a short silence he said, "Also, do not call me a man, I am an infernal being who is too complex to fit into human categories." "How are we supposed to know that?" yelled Asher. "Well, I would assume you would realize that I am an infernal being when I told you I was the devil's cousin, second cousin in particular. So you two could legally get married in almost any place on earth," said Wolfgang. Everyone turned to him with a look of dismay. Asher then said, "I meant, how were we supposed to know that this was the point where we enter hell?" Jeff did not respond. "What do we do now?" I said. "We wait for my cousin," said Jeff as a bunch of torches that we hadn't seen in the cave suddenly lit up. About an hour into us sitting in the cave and waiting, we heard something coming towards us from the hell end. Jeff suddenly stood up, looked over and said, "Hello, Mr. Satan, you are late." I cannot describe what the devil looked like. It's the weirdest phenomenon, I cannot describe it, but I can picture it in my head and I can see him. All I will say is he looked human, and he looked like both the most terrifying and most beautiful human at the same time. He stared at Jeff with a glare that conveyed anger and disappointment, but then he suddenly smiled and said, "Oh Jeff, it's good to see you. How is our plan going?" "Your plan?" I said, puzzled. "I think this is the devil's plan that crazy Pastor George was talking about, where the devil takes over the earth," whispered Wolfgang. Satan then stared at Wolfgang and said, "No sir, I don't want to take over the earth. I am simply trying to help it by sending my cousin here for a retrieval of sorts." Wolfgang then stared back with a surprised blank face, and all he could muster out and say was, "You heard that?" "Of course I heard that," said the devil as he laughed. "I hear anything I want to hear." "Oh," said Wolfgang. The devil then followed with, "Well, I would love to stay and chat, but I have business to get down to with my cousin, and I am puzzled as to why he brought you four here." Jeff then started to look worried. It was the first time I had seen him anything other than smug and happy since I had met him. He then said, "Well, some things in our plan went wrong. First of all, we killed the teacher. I thought you said those lice wouldn't kill him, I just wanted him gone for a few days." "Wait, it actually was lice," I said. Asher then followed up by saying, "Wait, that was you?" The devil then said, "Yes, that was inadvertently us. I think I accidentally gave you the devil's lice to give to him and not the normal ones." "Devil's lice?" said Lena. "Yes, we use it to torture people down in hell," said the devil, "but he will be fine, we will bring him back after things have been handled. Now Jeff, finish telling me what else you have screwed up." "We," said Jeff. "And we did it to the wrong teacher. You told me Horowitz was the science teacher." "Why is that a problem?" said the devil. "It's a problem because I need to be able to search the areas for our escaped demon, without arousing suspicion. I can do that by leading nature hikes as a science teacher." "Escaped demon?" said Lena, concerned. "What about these kids, why are they here?" said Satan. "Well, I needed help," said Jeff. The devil then frowned and said, "I sent you help, I sent you Barry and Biggs." Jeff sighed and said, "Barry and Biggs are two incompetent imbeciles who flew the coop as soon as we got here." "Fine, you can enlist the kids' help if it will let you capture the sand demon faster," said the devil. "What makes you think we will help you?" said Asher. "He'll probably kill us if we don't," said Lena. No, that will not happen," said the devil. "I cannot kill people." "What about Mr. Horowitz?" said Lena. "That wasn't murder, it was an accident," said Jeff. "What's in it for us?" said Wolfgang, "because if you can't kill me, then I'm not helping you fight a demon." "Well, if you do this, I will grant you a favor," said the devil. My ears perked up and I said, "What kind of favor?" "I can give you almost anything, money, fame, I can bring someone back for you. I can't kill people though, that's one of my few limits," said the devil. "So you'll give each of us a favor?" I said. "No," said the devil, "my favors are rare and all of you'll get one collective one." "Still seems like a good deal," I said. "I agree," said Wolfgang. No way," said Lena. "Please," said Wolfgang, "if you do, I'll go on that trip that you want me to go to this summer." With that, Lena sighed and said fine. We all looked at Asher but he said, "No, I will not do this, I just want to finish school in peace." "No," I said, "you are doing this." "No, I won't," he said. I turned to Jeff and Satan and said he's in. Asher protested but no one listened. The devil said, "Great. We'll contact you when we need you." Jeff then said, "Let's go back to class, and do me a favor, don't mention this unless I do first." Jeff then waved his hand and we were suddenly back in the classroom, learning about the Pythagorean theorem. "I have to go now, I am being summoned to a follow-up interview with the federal agents. I will be sure to get back to this later. During the time where the devil's second cousin was in town, I had a job. It wasn't a very good job but still it was one of the better ones that the town has to offer. I worked as a clerk for the flamboyant barber. Now while you might think that, the flamboyant barber, is a nickname, it is actually the only name that our town's on and off barber has given us. The man, who wears a red suit, comes to town every few months, with nothing but a briefcase. He then pitches a big tent that has the same colors and patterns as your average circus tent, then he works as a barber in the town for anywhere from a few days to a few months. He is a very strange man, and I have first-hand knowledge of it since I have been his clerk 3 times by now. The barber will become very important later, both in this story and ones to come, but now back to the meat of the story. After we got back from the meeting with Satan in the cave, things returned to normal, well as normal as they can be for our town. Actually, that's another lie. Things in our town got much weirder than they usually are. People started vanishing at a much higher rate than normal and we started seeing lights in the desert. In hindsight, the vanishing wasn't that bad, we go through spikes every now and then. The lights in the desert however were very unusual, they had never happened before. I've heard screaming in the woods and growling in the swamps, I've even seen shadowy figures in the fields, but never lights in the desert. Jeff seemed to have just focused on teaching and as he told us we didn't mention what happened and just acted like he was our normal math teacher, but crazy, infernal, devilish Jeff returned about a week later. When he returned, Asher, Wolfgang, Lena, and I were at the lake house. About a 10-minute walk from the school, on a trail in the woods to the east, there is a large lake. On the edge of this lake there is a massive rundown wooden house that the school bought cheap. Over the course of the time they owned it the school tried to use it for many things, but every time they just gave up. Eventually the school fell back into its negligent ways and just started to let students use the house unsupervised. Anyways, the night he returned, the 4 of us were at the lake house, hanging out with a bunch of other people. It was kind of like a party, but one of those small ones that us nerds and social rejects host. During the party, Wolfgang went out onto one of the lower balconies of the house, but then promptly came back in, telling Wolfgang, Lena, and me to come outside. When we all got outside, we saw why Wolfgang was so concerned. Jeff was standing in the water, waist deep, fully clothed, motioning for us to come here with his hand. I then realized that Jeff was standing too far into the lake to actually be standing up. "What do we do?" said Asher. "We follow him," I said. "I'm in, let's go," Wolfgang said. Me and Wolfgang started walking down the stairs by the balcony, but Asher and Lena protested. We made it clear that we were not listening to their protests, and eventually they followed us. We got into a small rowboat by the shore and we rowed over to Jeff. "Howdy," said Jeff. "Why the hell couldn't you just come to the shore?" Lena said. Didn't want to, said Jeff. Well, what in hell do you need, said Asher angrily. As Jeff took out a cigarette and lit it with a flame from his finger, he said, it appears we have a situation. Yes, we know, some demon escaped from hell and is taking refuge here. We went over this with the devil, Asher yelled. Also, don't smoke, that can give you lung cancer. Jeff then said, yes, well, the demon situation has gotten much worse than we first anticipated, and no worries about cancer, I'm immortal. Wait, said Wolfgang, if the devil can hear everything, how didn't he know how bad the situation was? The devil likes to embellish, said Jeff. He can hear the words of every living human on earth, but he can't hear demons, and he can't hear people being possessed by escaped souls from hell. Escaped souls? Said Asher. Yes, and that brings us our problem, said Jeff. When the demon escaped, he apparently brought souls back up from hell. What? Said Lena. Do you need me to dumb it down for you? Jeff said, the sand demon has brought many souls up from hell with him. Most of the people vanishing in this town have been possessed by them. They are probably with the sand demon in some location that we haven't been able to find. However, we have a few rogues. Who are the rogues? Said Lena. Well, most of them are insignificant people just having fun being free from hell, but one of them has been doing a lot of harm, Jeff said. Who are we dealing with? I said. Napoleon, said Jeff, and he has possessed the body of the man in this town that you people call Bounty Hunter Jack, and you people are going to find him. No, screw this, said Lena, this won't end well, and I won't let my boyfriend Nora get killed doing this. Now that I think of it, it's ironic that she said that, since just a few months later, after the sand demon, she would be the reason that her boyfriend gets killed. Getting killed by Napoleon would have been much more fun though than by the mob like he did. Why can't you find him? I said. Well, I have been trying since I've known he was here, said Jeff, but things didn't go as well as I thought they would. Apparently, being tortured in hell for what to these souls is 1,000 years gives you a sort of sixth sense, a hell sense, for the paranormal, so every time I got near him, he ran. What about your powers? Said Wolfgang. He isn't human. On Earth my powers only affect humans, in hell they only affect condemned souls. He is a condemned soul on Earth, so my powers won't affect him, even if he is in a human vessel, said Jeff. What is a condemned soul? Said Lena. A soul that is in hell or has reached a point where there is not enough time in their life to make up for what they have done to avoid them going to hell, said Jeff. I wonder who fits the second criteria? I said. All the executives at your school, Jeff murmured under his breath. What? I said. What? Jeff replied, acting like he hadn't said anything. What is heaven like? Wolfgang asked Jeff. Okay, said Jeff, this is the last question. We need to get to the task at hand. Jeff continued, the answer is no one knows. Ever since the devil got this job from a newspaper advertisement in 1986, he's had all the information he would ever want, except the information about where souls that do not go to hell go. What do you need us to do? I said. Search for him, and when you find him, stab him with one of these, Jeff said as he pulled out 4 daggers and gave one to each of us. Also, he said, you should split up. He was last seen on the far, southern edge of this lake. Asher and Stuart take the west side of the lake, Lena and Wolfgang search the east. Converge on the southern side where the water flows out into the river. What? Said Asher, why do those two get the side closer to town? Well, because Stuart can handle it and I don't like you, said Jeff. Well, I can't argue with that, said Asher. About 30 minutes later, we were walking through the woods. The brush and forest on this side of the lake was denser. Right then was the first time that I wished the school had better safety protocols. The school has no curfews or room checks. We do have apocalypse drills every month but no curfews or room checks. As we were walking through the woods, the screams started. Screams in the woods are so common that in our orientation booklet that the school gave us, we were told to ignore it. It was my first time on this side of the lake though, and they were so loud from here and it shocked me. Once the screams stopped, I turned back to see if Asher was okay, but he was gone. I started retracing my steps to look for him, but then I saw something in the woods, a figure. I squinted and realized that the figure was that of Bounty Hunter Jack. I pulled the dagger from my pocket and ran towards Jack, dagger in hand. I ran there and I stabbed him, right where his heart should be. There were no signs of fear or sadness on his face, no frown, no terrified look in his eyes, and no anger. He just laughed. He laughed, and the last thing I felt was something grabbing me from behind as everything went black.